Imagine you're perched on the crumbling lip of a sheer cliff, the kind that juts out over a chasm so vast it seems to swallow the sky itself. The wind howls like a living thing, tearing at your clothes, your hair, your very resolve, while the ground beneath your feet groans and splinters, chunks of earth peeling away to plunge into the black below. Your life, every cornerstone you've leaned on, every fragile thread of identity you've woven, is unraveling, spiraling down into that abyss. Maybe it's a career that's crashed, a relationship that's turned to dust, or a hope you nursed in secret that's been snuffed out cold. You're not imagining some lofty metaphor here. This is your reality, raw and unfiltered. I've stood on that same edge, felt the vertigo of everything slipping away, and I'm telling you now, this isn't where you break. This is where you begin. This is the moment to restart, reboot, and refocus, to set a torch to the trembling weakness eating at your core and hammer out a life that doesn't just limp along, but stands tall and unyielding. The Stoics didn't just stare down cliffs like this, they leapt from them, landed in the chaos, and built empires of the mind from the wreckage. Marcus Aurelius, hunched over his journal in a war-torn camp, ink smudging under flickering torchlight, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." For more than 2 decades, I've walked with their words, Seneca's razor-sharp clarity, Epictetus's unbowed spine, Marcus's quiet, relentless fire, and I've learned they weren't poets or priests spinning fairy tales. They were fighters, bloodied but unbroken, and they left us a map to do the same. Today, I'm not tossing you a flimsy checklist or a pat on the back. I'm handing you a Stoic war chest to shatter fragility, burn away the dross, and forge a life that laughs in the face of ruin. If you've ever felt crushed under the weight of your own doubts, ever tasted the bitter ash of failure, or ever wondered if you've got what it takes to rise again, this is your summons. Stick with me. By the end of this, you'll see weakness not as a chain, but as kindling, and you'll wield a mindset that bends the world to your will. Hit that like button right now if you're ready to set the old you ablaze and step into the fire. Why does this even matter? Because life doesn't send you a memo before it swings the wrecking ball. It slams into you, jobs vanish, friends turn to shadows, health frays, and those quiet nights alone stretch into a chorus of, "What now?" And then it watches, daring you to flinch. The Stoics didn't blink. Seneca put it plain, fire tests gold, adversity tests the strong, and he wasn't blowing smoke. Weakness isn't some shameful secret to bury, it's the raw or you melt down and shape into something fierce, if you've got the grit to face the heat. I've seen people buckle under lighter loads, their spirits snapping like dry twigs, and I've dragged myself out of holes so deep the light was a memory. This isn't about pretending you're a superhero with a cape flapping in the breeze. It's about knowing you're mortal, breakable, human, and choosing to build anyway. Over this long road ahead, I'm going to walk you through a Stoic mindset that doesn't just patch up the leaks, it tears down the rotting husk of who you were and raises something new, something tempered and tough as steel. We're going to wander through stories, some carved in ancient stone, some etched in my own flesh, tangle with ideas that'll make you uncomfortable, maybe even angry, and land on truths that hit you square in the chest and stick there. Share this with someone who's teetering on their own ledge right now. They'll thank you when they're standing taller on the other side. Let's light the fuse with the first piece of this puzzle: embrace the fall. The Stoics didn't run from life's storms, they stood in the eye and let the rain soak them through. Epictetus. A man who started life with chains on his wrists and ended it with a mind no empire could shackle, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Picture this. Your world's caving in, your bank account's a ghost town, your closest allies stabbed you in the back, your body's betraying you with every step. Most folks lock up, fists clenched, muttering, "Why me?" through gritted teeth. The Stoic doesn't. They see the drop as a slate wiped clean, a chance to ditch the baggage and start fresh. I learned this the hard way in 2017. When my marriage went up in flames. One day, I had a partner, a house with a creaky porch swing, a future I could sketch out in my sleep. The next, I was alone in a rented room that smelled of mildew and regret, my whole sense of self torched to cinders. Weakness slithered in, cooing that I was done, 35, divorced. A washed-up nobody with nothing left to give. But then Marcus's voice broke through the haze: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That collapse wasn't my tombstone, it was my crucible. I stopped staring at the ashes and started moving, lifting weights until my hands bled, scribbling words until my pen ran dry. Clawing my way back to something real. The Stoic mindset says your lowest point isn't a dead end, it's a springboard. Sounds wild, right? It's not. It's freedom, pure and unshakable. Now, this might kick up some dust. There's a camp out there that'd say charging into the wreckage like that is reckless, even borderline masochistic. You've got to process your pain, they'd insist. Not steamroll it like some emotionless machine. I'll give them this: feelings hit like a tidal wave, and I'm not made of stone. I wept plenty of nights into that lumpy rental pillow. But the Stoics didn't linger in the floodwaters. They felt the sting, then waded out and got to work. Today's world loves to cradle you in self-care, bubble wrap, endless journals, therapy loops. Take your time mantras, but I'd argue that's where weakness breeds, in the slow rot of inaction. After my divorce, I didn't spend months picking apart every fight with my ex or lighting candles to heal. I got up, hit the gym until my muscles screamed, and rebuilt my days from scratch. Weakness thrives when you sit still, it starves when you stride forward. What's your take on this? Too harsh, too unfeeling, or just the kick in the pants you didn't know you needed? Drop your thoughts below, I'm ready for the sparks. Next up, Piece 2, strip away the lies. Seneca dropped a truth bomb that still echoes: we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Weakness doesn't just creep in through the cracks, it builds whole castles of delusion in your head, whispering, "You're worthless. Not enough, you'll never make it, this is over." The Stoic rips those walls down with a machete of reason. Take my friend Clara, caught in the jaws of 2020's pandemic hell. She lost her marketing job when the world locked down. And I'd get these calls from her, voice shaking, barely holding it together: "I'm a failure, no one's hiring, I'm done for." I'd channel Epictetus like a drill sergeant: "Is that true? Or is that your mind spinning a yarn? We'd sit there, over the phone, breaking it down, what she could control, her skills, her applications, her grit, and what she couldn't, the economy, the virus, the chaos. She stopped drowning in what if and started swimming, tweaking her resume, firing off emails, learning new tricks online. 6 months later, she landed a gig that blew her old one out of the water. The lie was her cage, the truth was her crowbar. Look at your own head right now. What's the story you're telling yourself that's keeping you small? Burn it to the ground. The Stoics didn't cuddle up to comforting fictions, they smashed them and stepped over the shards. This one's a powder keg waiting to blow. Does brutal honesty like that ever cross the line? There's a crowd out there swearing by self-compassion, arguing that tearing down every dark thought risks shattering your psyche into splinters. I'll nod to them, push too hard, and yeah, you might crack. I've had days where the weight felt like it'd crush me flat. But the Stoics weren't out to torture you, they were surgeons, slicing away the rot to save the patient. Clara didn't need me cooing, there, over the phone, she needed a mirror held up, cold and clear. I've watched too many souls sink into the quicksand of "I'm enough" platitudes. Stuck there until the world moved on without them. Harsh truth yanked me out of my post-divorce swamp, it might do the same for you. So what's it gonna be? Tough love that stings and strengthens? Or soft landings that feel good but leave you limp? Share this if it's striking a nerve, let's get more eyes on this fire. Now, Piece 3, Forge Discipline in the Ashes. Marcus Aurelius laid it out like a blueprint. You must build your life action by action, and be content if each one achieves its goal, as far as it can. Weakness loves a good excuse, too tired, too busy, too broken. Discipline doesn't care, it starves those whines out. After my marriage tanked, I didn't sit around wishing for a better me, I built one. Up at 5 a.m. Cold showers that jolted me awake, 500 words scratched out before the sun even thought about rising. Brutal? Sure. But it wasn't punishment, it was salvation. Discipline isn't a chain dragging you down, it's the wings that lift you up. Think of Cato, the Stoic senator, trudging barefoot through Rome's streets, not because he had to, but because it toughened his soul. You don't need to toss your shoes out the window, but you do need habits that shout, "I'm not that weak shadow anymore." Start small, 10 push-ups, a page read, a single deep breath, but start. The Stoic doesn't rebuild with flashy banners and trumpets, they do it with steady, unglamorous bricks, laid one by one until the wall's too high to breach. Here's where the story I promised you lands, a real, gut-punching moment that branded this whole Stoic mindset into my bones. It was 2019, and I'd hit a second rock bottom. One that made my divorce look like a warm-up. I'd poured everything into my first book after the split, nights bleeding into mornings, coffee strong enough to strip paint. Every ounce of me stitched into those pages. It launched, and then it flopped, reviews that cut like razors, sales so low they barely registered. I'd rebooted once after the marriage fell apart, clawing my way back to something solid, and now here I was, failing the reboot. Weakness slunk in, all teeth and venom. You're a fraud, a nobody, give it up. I wallowed for a week, pacing that same rented room, now a little less bleak but still a cage. I'd stare at the ceiling, replaying every typo critics mocked, every nice try email from publishers. Then Seneca's voice punched through the murk. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. It hit me, I'd been coasting. I'd written when I felt inspired. Dodged the grind when it got tough, treated discipline like an optional side dish. That flop wasn't the death knell, it was the alarm clock. So I restarted, rebooted, refocused. Every day. 500 words, no excuses, rain, exhaustion, doubt, didn't matter. I'd sit at that wobbly desk, fingers stiff, and hammer out the sentences. 6 months later, I had a new manuscript, rough but real. And this time, it sold, not a bestseller, but a victory, my victory. The lesson seared deep, weakness isn't the fall, it's the refusal to climb back up. I'd skirted discipline, and it nearly buried me. You've been there, haven't you, that moment where you could have pushed but didn't? Spill it below, I want your story too. Let's keep the momentum rolling with piece 4. Starve the parasite of comparison. Epictetus cut to the chase. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Weakness feeds on envy like a leech. Scroll through X. See the curated lives, the shiny cars, the flawless families, and suddenly you're a speck. The Stoic snips that lifeline. Post-divorce, I'd doom scroll, seeing couples laughing over brunch. Posting their perfect day pics, and it'd twist the knife, why not me? Then Marcus stepped in, another success does not diminish your own. I hit unfollow, shut the app. Turned my eyes to my lane, my reps in the gym, my words on the page, my breath in my lungs. Comparison's a thief that picks your pockets while you're distracted, starve it. And you're rich in ways no one can touch. Ever catch yourself measuring your mess against someone's highlight reel? Fess up, we're peeling this back more later. This one's a live wire. Some folks swear envy's a spark, not a sin. It pushes you to hustle, they'd say, and I'll admit, I've felt that jab, that urge to outdo the next guy. It's lit a fire under me more than once. But the Stoics called it a chokehold, not a cheerleader. Envy's a race where you're always trailing, panting after shadows instead of running your own track. I'd rather grind for me than glare at them, less sweat, more soul. So, envy, rocket fuel or fool's gold? You call it, share this if it's ringing bells. Piece 5, Master the Present. Seneca laid it out like a law, life is long if you know how to use it. Weakness loves to time travel, yesterday's regrets, tomorrow's maybes, anything but now. The Stoic plants their boots in the moment. After that book flopped, I'd spiral, replaying every misstep, dreading the next rejection. Then Epictetus grabbed me by the collar. There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. I stopped, focused on today's words, today's sweat, today's air. The present's your forge, shape it hot. Where's your head drifting right now? Yank it back. Piece 6, Turn Pain into Power. Marcus said it best. The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. Weakness sees pain as a knockout punch, the Stoic sees it as a sparring partner, teaching you moves. My divorce. That book flop, each bruise built me. Pain didn't break me, it sharpened me. I lifted heavier, wrote truer, stood taller. What's your pain doing to you? Grab it by the throat and wrestle it down, tell me how it goes. Piece 7, Cut the Fat. Seneca again, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. Weakness hoards, stuff, grudges, noise. The Stoic prunes. Post 2019, I purged, old shirts, old doubts, old what-ifs. Less isn't loss, it's muscle. What's clogging your life? Hack it away. Piece 8. Stand alone. Epictetus, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Weakness craves claps, the Stoic shrugs them off. I wrote that second book while friends smirked, my path. My rules. Crowds fade, you don't. Who's tugging at you? Cut the strings. Piece 9, Expect the storm. Marcus, when you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love, then remind yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, overbearing, violent. Weakness wilts when the wind picks up, the Stoic braces. Life's a brawl, gear up. I've been blindsided plenty, and expecting it kept me upright. You? Piece 10, Own your end. Seneca, the life we receive is not short, but we make it so. Weakness dreads the reaper, the Stoic shakes his hand. I've faced death's shadow, divorce, failure, and lived louder. You're dust, act like it. Let's tie this up tight. That 2019 flop wasn't my curtain call, it was my curtain raise. Weakness is your clay, mold it, fire it, make it yours. The Stoics didn't hand you a cushion, they handed you a sword. I restarted, rebooted, refocused, stood up bleeding but breathing. You can too. Like this, share it, let's forge an army.